Oof. Oh boy, this has been a while since I've come on and done an update on the news. But let me just tell you something. There's some sad stuff going on. You can't help but feel bad for these people that are in the situation. Some of these people that are in the situation. I mean, granted, they did it to themselves, but you never want to see anybody do bad things or get caught or what have you. But um, there's I got some typical real deal type stories. The Real Deal, which is one of the publications that I recommend everybody take a look at. All big real estate professionals do. And also Viceroy Research. We're going to talk about Arbor Financial. Just read Viceroy's most recent updates on them. But before we get into that, I want to talk about multifamily investors lean into conversions. This is an article from the Multifamily Housing News just recently, January 15th. And they're talking about office to multifamily conversions, which, that's not what we do. We do hotel to conversions. It's a lot easier, we feel. But you're seeing this. And the thing that is amazing is that one of the hotels that we're in the process of buying is owned by an investor group, and this investor group happens to be cited in this article. The struggling office market has opened the doors to repurposing a significant number of office properties to multifamily, which enjoys strong demand and steady rent growth. So in other words, multifamily is solid, it's stable, it's a great real estate asset class to own and operate. The expanding crop of distressed office assets is a generational opportunity to access high-quality urban multifamily assets at an attractive basis, said Dune Real Estate Partners CEO Daniel Neidich. So, let me see. They talk about why some investors prefer conversions. I know why I do. Let's see what they have to say. Besides creating much-needed housing stock, conversion projects help to revitalize city centers and provide a smaller carbon footprint than new construction, shorter delivery timelines, and a quicker lease up than developments. That's all well and good. Let's talk about the downside. Let's see. You see, it says with an estimated 15% of commercial business district office buildings in the 105 U.S. cities suitable for residential conversion, they suggest that this translates to potentially 170,000 new units. Boy, that's not a lot of new units. But the point is, and I'm trying to find, governments are starting to get into the game, and ain't that the truth? They're now finding out that because of their restrictions on building, it's created a huge problem with supply, and we're seeing that everywhere we look. And even in I went to a recent Chamber of Commerce breakfast in my hometown, and they had economists get up there and talk about the biggest problems that states and cities are realizing right now is the lack of housing. And the economist that we were listening to is a New Hampshire economist, but he was looking at all of New England. And it was fascinating to see the difference in the 6 states, and it all ties into politics. And so one of the problems is that the areas, the states that have those most restrictive type of political people, so to speak, they're the ones that are having the biggest trouble. One state that actually is burgeoning in New England is Maine. They are solving their affordable housing problem better than any of the other 6 other states. It was fascinating. Now, let me tell you a couple of sad stories here. These stories, they're tough. All right. So there was this one particular lawyer. I know what you're going to say. Well, why is this a bad story about a lawyer? And the answer is, well, there's really no. This story could be bad for anybody, but here we go. This particular lawyer, his name is Mark Nussbaum. He was the go-to attorney for Lakewood, New Jersey, and Brooklyn real estate investors. He's facing 2 lawsuits related to his dealings with escrow accounts. The lawsuits provide more insight into Nussbaum's unique role in real estate. The attorney's name has shown up in acquisitions, plans, and loans involving embattled deal makers, such as, and they list a bunch of investors. Nussbaum often holds money in escrow accounts and then lends the money out as bridge loans, according to sources familiar with the matter. He then collects a point or two interest on the loans. 2 civil lawsuits filed this week in New York State Supreme Court suggest that Nussbaum is facing issues with his escrow business. Both lawsuits were filed this week within a day of each other and are seeking to collect millions from Nussbaum. Nussbaum did not return a request for comment. In one lawsuit, one party is looking to collect $15 million. Nussbaum sought financing from Crestview in the form of show capital to evidence purchasing power, according to the lawsuit. Crestview alleges it loaned Nussbaum $15 million because of the relationship between the 2 parties on the condition that the funds sit in an escrow account. But Nussbaum failed to return the money by the required date. Crestview alleges Nussbaum and his law firms failed to maintain sufficient account balances to satisfy their obligations as an escrow agent. It further alleges Nussbaum frequently transfers funds between the accounts to satisfy balance requirements or for some other reason. Crestview, which Florida corporate record shows tied to this other gentleman, is seeking a court injunction to restrain Nussbaum from withdrawing or dispersing any funds from any of his accounts. Another lawsuit filed on Thursday is more convoluted. This is Nussbaum this Mount Dora is suing Nussbaum over fraudulent transfers allegedly made to prevent it from collecting on a judgment. I'm not going to get into this one. This one has to do with proceeds from a judgment and a lawsuit. But the point is that this guy, this lawyer, is playing fast and loose with his escrow money. Okay, and that was the article one day. The next day, the article is Mark Nussbaum shuts down his law firm. Oh, really? Embattled real estate attorney Mark Nussbaum has shut down his law firm. The abrupt shuttering comes amid allegations that the lawyer, known as a go-to attorney for Lakewood, New Jersey real estate investors, has refused to hand over escrow funds. And filings obtained by the Real Deal show previously unreported links between the Nussbaum Lowinger LLP founder and the late Borough Park real estate investor Mendel Steiner. Steiner died last week at the age of 33, sending shockwaves through the close-knit Orthodox Jewish community. Steiner, in his brief real estate career, had amassed thousands of apartments throughout the country. But Steiner reportedly struggled in recent years financially and faced at least one foreclosure in South Florida where he took on a high-interest loan. Rumors took off about Steiner's sudden death. One newsletter wrote that a lawsuit filed last week against Nussbaum was important context to understand Steiner. It has been a pleasure and a privilege to work with you and serve as your counsel over the years, said Nussbaum in an email sent out to clients obtained by TRD. I value the connections we have made and the relationships we have formed. Nussbaum said the firm has retained counsel to represent it through the wind-down process. You know, you sit there and you read this stuff, and there's much more here. But then, of course, when I look at that, I do a little bit of a dive on Mendel Steiner, and real estate investor Mendel Steiner died at 33 years of age. Steiner, in his brief real estate career, acquired multifamily holdings across Chicago, Cleveland, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and South Florida, according to loan documents, lawsuits, and news reports. The publication Borough Park 24 reported that he was a philanthropist who supported Orthodox schools. A funeral was held recently. sources told TRD that Steiner had fallen on hard times in recent years. He had amassed thousands of units, according to one source. He had also donated money to yeshivas and philanthropies. He had personally guaranteed the $3.26 million loan. When Steiner obtained the loan in 2022, it had a 9.25% interest rate. Ouch. I tell you, I feel so sorry for these guys. Sometimes growing too fast, instead of just taking your time and building a solid business, these guys rush out and they try to be the next big Donald Trump. So I'm seeing more and more. As a matter of fact, I'm about to read another one for you. But let me just talk for a moment here about this escrow thing, because I as an attorney, I have an IOLTA account, IOLTA trust account. I have clients I put my money in. They put their money into my trust account, and it sits there. It doesn't get used for earnest money for somebody else. It doesn't get used for any other purpose. It sits there. It only gets moved when I have documentation that the person who I am holding it in trust for is asking me to move it someplace. I have everything in writing. I back up everything. It's nowadays they teach lawyers, because there have been some horror stories about of wiring funds to the wrong place. So you always want to make sure that, and of course your professional liability policy covers you for that as well. And even I here's the model rules of professional conduct. It's rule 1.15, safekeeping property, the trust accounts for clients. And you study that stuff when you become a lawyer. Nussbaum blew it, and that's too bad. He's done as a lawyer. He'll never be able to get his ticket, except maybe in Massachusetts he'll get his ticket back. But it's unfortunate. And what's really interesting is I've been holding money for a particular client for quite a while, and the deal is just taking longer than expected. But the money's there. It's sitting right there. Hasn't touched it. And the day that story about Nussbaum came out, and I got a phone call from the client, and he says, "Listen, I trust you emphatically. I know there's no issue, but I got a call from one of my partners, and they want to make sure that the money's in the trust account. Is there any way you can provide documentation?" I said, "Not a problem. I'll have it to you in 2 minutes." And I boom, send it right on over to him. And then I put two and two together, and I thought, I wonder why he's saying that. So I picked up the phone, I called him back, and said, "Hey, listen, just out of curiosity, do you think that your partner who asked for documentation and proof that the money's in the account actually read this Nussbaum article and started wondering about his money?" And my investor says, my client says, "I don't know, but that's a very strong possibility." I say, yeah, I bet it is. So I had no problem. Open book. There you have it. Not an issue. And I just thought to myself, man, if I was like Nussbaum and I got a phone call like this, oh, my stomach, my insides would be turning and churning. So, you just don't mess around with that. You see these types of stories and they just scare the daylights out of you, and it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Your word and your name is worth so much more. Okay, so let me finish up with the real deal. Then I get into Arbor in just a moment. So this one particular group partnership of brothers, months after allegedly defaulting on its debt, the Chetrit Group stands in danger of losing one of their properties to foreclosure. Mac Real Estate Credit Strategies sued Joseph and Meyer Chetrit in Manhattan State Supreme Court. The lender alleges that Chetrit Group co-principals owe $223 million for 3 mezzanine loans secured by a property. Mac is requesting the judge issue a summary judgment next month. If the Chetrits fail to quickly settle their debts, the lender could initiate a UCC foreclosure against a 22-story hotel. Once voted by TripAdvisor. I'm sorry, I didn't read this beforehand, but I'll read it right now. If the I'm sorry. Oh, I hate it when people laugh and don't tell you what the joke is. I'm trying to get to the joke. I really am. If the Chetrits fail to quickly settle their debts, the lender could initiate a UCC foreclosure against a 22-story hotel once voted by TripAdvisor as the dirtiest hotel in the city. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. All right. Now, the issue here is that the next day, there was an article, real estate investor Jacob Chetrit dies. Jacob Chetrit, one of the 4 brothers in the enigmatic Chetrit family. Hold on, folks. Hold on 1 second. I'm on a Zoom call. Thanks, Val. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, sorry about that, folks. My driver, my FedEx driver, was knocking on the door, and he knows I'm here. I can't hide from him. All right, so Jacob Chetrit, one of the 4 brothers in the enigmatic Chetrit family, who are major players in New York real estate, has died. Chetrit's death was announced by the synagogue and confirmed by the Real Deal. Jacob was a major investor in Manhattan and South Florida real estate. His Chetrit organization owns 366,000 square foot, and he lists all these properties. He had owned several property. I'm not going to go down into the thing. Besides Joseph, Jacob's other brothers were Meyer and Judah. The 4 siblings invested separately and alongside each other, which were often led to confusion over which Chetrit was a subject of discussion. It's unfortunate, you see these things happening, and it's just really, you just don't want to. I've gone through very challenging times in my real estate career and my businesses, and I tell you, there have been times I'm pulling my hair out, wondering what the hell am I going to do? How I'm going to put food on the table. It's sometimes. But God's good, and you get through it. I just always remember that saying, "This too shall pass." God's saying, "This too shall pass." But when I see these stories, I feel for these people, and it just hits you. So very sad, very sad. Okay, now. I have one of my students is buying a nice property. I think it's about $12 million property down in Florida. And they're using Arbor as their lender. And they're also using a mortgage broker that I do a lot of business with. I love the guy. He's fantastic, absolutely top shelf. I'll say his name. His name is Kevin Jenkins. And Kevin secured a quote with Arbor Financial with this particular for this particular client. And I mentioned to my client about this about Arbor. You know what the deal is, and he goes, "No, I didn't know anything about that." I said, It shouldn't impact you. They're if they're having issues, it doesn't really matter. It's you're getting your loan from Fannie Mae. If things change with Arbor, and they get bought or something, the servicing of the deal just goes to somebody else. So that's kind of the structure of how these things operate. But viceroyresearch.org, they are a short seller. So you got to understand the makeup of how this information is being delivered. Now, Viceroy Research goes out there and researches companies. And if they don't like your company, they'll short sell your stock. And they don't like Arbor, and they're short selling Arbor. And so they're trying to gin up bad press and drive down the value of Arbor's numbers so that they can make a killing on the short selling. So every so often you see that they come out with more and more information about their subject matter companies. And the most recent one, I'm going to read to you some of the highlights here. Now, because Arbor is a publicly traded company, they have to release information about how their business is being run. People have to see it, and it's if you give bad information, the SEC will be all over you. So that's where Viceroy is getting a lot of their information. So what they do is they go grab the information, curate it into a form that they want to be able to deliver that tells the story that they want. So whenever I read this to you, or whenever you read Viceroy research, always consider the source and always consider what the purpose of this information is for. It's obviously to help Viceroy Research and all of their clients. So let me highlight some of the some of the highlights that they have in this report here. And I highly recommend that you go direct to the source and read it yourself. I'm going to read it word for word. And if you want to see any more information, there are a lot of reports. I'm only reading you one on Arbor from Viceroy. This one's called Arbor, PIKing holes in the CLO data, picking holes in the CIK data. Arbor has modified $5.7 billion worth of loans, which is up 26% month over month, and holds $1 billion of delinquent loans. All right. Viceroy's granular analysis of individual CLO loan data over the last 12 months shows vast sections of financial data, including delinquencies and modifications, have been manipulated, adulterated, and or erroneously underreported. Almost every underlying sponsor's debt servicing costs are substantially higher than the scheduled interest due to Arbor. And this figure has been growing at an alarming rate, meaning they're losing money on every one of their deals. Substantially, all of Arbor borrowers have obtained third-party mezzanine financing to pay unaffordable Arbor interest. Arbor appears to modify spreads for distressed borrowers month on month to create a quasi-cash sweep program where borrowers simply pay what they want. This is obviously the editor didn't get a copy of this before it went out. Arbor does not record delinquencies or modifications on these loans. Arbor's net interest spread has dropped by 13 to 55% across its book. The portfolio of distressed loans is teetering on the edge of a negative spread, with over 95% of borrowers unable to afford interest repayments and from slim operational margins. 95% of their borrowers can't afford their product. The portfolio has an LTV ratio of 85%, not healthy for any bank. Approximately a 4.2% cap rate, which means that all their valuations on their book is at 4.2, but they're not trading at 4.2. I can guarantee you that. With Arbor holding the equity stake, only 9 Arbor loans have an underlying debt service coverage ratio greater than 1.0. Whew. There is no sign of operational turnaround among sponsors, as LTM net operating income remains flat across the board. and debt servicing costs increased due to presumed mezzanine financing. Oh my gosh. Arbor's CFO incorrectly claims that only 15 million of PIK accrued. PIK, what the heck is something interest? Uh, ooh, somebody help me out there. See if you know it. PIK, where'd I go? PIK accrued in quarter three, 2024. This is a logical impossibility against reported cash pay rate and weighted average yield. Right? Viceroy's calculations suggest that about between 35 and 37 million PIK accrued in Q3, reflecting the severe liquidity constraints faced by sponsors. And I'm going to finish up with the last bullet point, which says, Arbor deceives investors by falsely claiming a robust sales pipeline while its loan book has been shrinking. New originations appear to be substantially the refinancing of existing loans, sometimes to the same borrowers. Ooh, so what does that mean to my clients, Val? That they just better keep their eyes open and make sure that Arb is going to be there when they go to close in 60 days or so. But even still, when you're dealing with a guy like Kevin Jenkins, Kevin will make sure that they're taken care of. I have no doubt about it. So that's where we stand right now, guys. We're starting to see, obviously Trump comes in 2025, new year. Everybody's all excited. Monday, the inauguration. I watched that economist, and he basically said 2025 is not going to be a breakup. A downturn in parts of the economy and some growth in others. We're not going to see inflation go up. We're not going to see a recession. The biggest thing that's really happened great over the last year during Biden's administration. Okay, so yep, is the increase in the spread between wages going up and inflation going down. Now, I've heard, people get on TikTok and they're sending all these stupid videos like, oh, so Trump's going to lower the price of everything like on day one. No, that's not what's going to happen. When has the price of virtually anything come down? The only one that really comes down that we can see on a in our hands is fuel. You can see the price at the pump. You see that one moving. But, the cost of eggs, yeah, okay, that's going to come down a little bit, but it won't come down a whole lot. What has to happen to get us out of this, to cure this inflation, is wages need to increase. That's what's going to happen. See, that's what's killing people. There was like a 5% spread over 9% inflation rate, and incomes were only increasing by about 4%, or not even that much. So those are the issues that the economist said we're going to see more and more of in 2025. But overall, I just think that we're now coming through this time. There's going to be a great clearing out, a great cleanup of some bad loans, like we looked at with Arbor. And here's the thing: Arbor is not the only one out there. They are not the only ones that are the victims of the interest rates. A lot of lenders are doing this. It all goes to your philosophy as an investor. Did you buy those floating interest rate loans? If you did, then you're going to pay the price. Remember this next time. Remember this. In other words, if you had to do that deal with a variable interest rate in order to make your numbers work, don't do the deal. You're overpaying for the property. There's a guy, Brian Burke, I think his name is. I think he's out on the West Coast, real estate investor. I had him on my podcast. He and I were on a panel one time. Great guy, smart investor. I talked to him about how he acquires property, and all of his properties were acquired very conservatively, very stable. He buys them all the right way, and he never gets floating rate interest products. So those types of guys are going to live and survive and see a nice career in this business. Just remember, folks, if you end up overpaying for a property, just go drop the keys on the bank's desk, that's really what the best way to get out of it, because you'll never overcome that. You are an investor. You're not a retail buyer. This is not a house you're going to live in and love for the next 30 years. This is just a product. We're investors. We don't pay retail. If the price is too much, walk away from the deal. Trust me on that one. All right, everybody. Great to see you. Thanks for coming. Always fun to chat. My cohort pro. I have a webinar on Saturday morning at noon. If Molly can just type in the address if you want to make sure that you get an invite to my webinar. I'm going to be teaching people about my new program for getting into multifamily. Yeah, just go to multifamilyos.com, and there's a box there where you can go and click on it and sign on up. And I'd love to see you. I'll be there. It'll be live. Molly and I were just working on the finishing touches on the presentation, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'll see you at noon on Saturday. Thanks, everybody. Great to see you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.